Evening, and welcome to the regular meeting of the Recreation and Parks Commission. Would everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Mr. Lubes led us in that. Yeah, you're set. Jackie, roll call, please.
Commissioner Stolnick. Commissioner Farfant's not here this evening. Commissioner Lubes.
Present.
Vice Chair Davis.
Present.
And Chairperson Mota.
I'm here. Presentations. Introduction of new Recreation Coordinator, Devin Bargeman Zamora.
Good evening, Commissioners. It is with my pleasure to introduce Devin Zamora. She's our new Recreation Coordinator. She will be operating out of the Teen Center, and we are very lucky to have her. She's here from Culver City, where she was a coordinator there. I'm going to let Devin tell you a little bit about herself. We let her squeak out last night. I'm not going to let her squeak out today. So, Devin, you have the floor.
Hi, so I'm Devin Zamora, maiden name Bargeman, born and raised in El Segundo. Played softball most of my life, and then went off to school and got my master's and my bachelor's in recreation and tourism management. Worked for the LA Kings for about 4 years, then decided to go into government and went and worked for Culver City, and now I'm here. I'm excited to be a part of the team and help the Teen Center grow even more.
Devin, I'm going to put you on the spot. So we did ask Devin about what type of sandwich would she describe herself as and why. So you want to share your answer, because we thought
I don't know if I can remember it, but I know I said that I would be a peanut butter and jelly sandwich because anybody can have it. It reminds me of my youth. You can have it when you're older and you don't have teeth, maybe. You can also, if you don't have a lot of money, it's something that you can afford then as well. I think that hits all the points that I got.
We liked it. So, thank you, Devin.
No problem.
All right.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Thank you and welcome. Okay. Public communications related to commission business only, and that is within the subject matter under the jurisdiction of the commission. Anyone? Okay.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Jeanette, the Aquatic Supervisor. I just wanted to give you guys a fun little invitation to our grand opening event for the City of El Segundo Weisburn Unified School District Aquatic Center grand opening. It'll be on Saturday, January 5th from 10:30 to 3, and we're going to have a lot of fun things going on. Yeah, you can decorate your area if you want. So we'll have Beach Boys cover band, food trucks, inflatable obstacle courses in the pool, some out of the pool as well, and just open recreation swim, a synchronized swimming demonstration. So a lot going on, and it'll just be a nice, fun community event. Everyone's welcome. So hopefully we will see you guys there. It's a little luau themed, so you can wear your hat and your sunglasses. It's going to be sunny and 90 on that day, so wear your sunscreen. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other public communications, we'll close public communications. Consent calendar. Approval of the minutes of the Recreation and Parks Commission regular meeting of October 17th, 2018. Anyone? Everything look all right?
Look good to me. Make a motion to pass it. Approve it.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
That's 4-0. There's no unfinished business tonight. New business. Consideration and possible action to appoint one member from the Recreation and Parks Commission to serve on the Gateway Committee to determine the visions, goals, and scope of the Main Street and Imperial Highway entryway capital improvement project. And staff would like us to appoint a Recreation and Parks Commission representative to the Gateway Committee. Okay, and I'm hearing, little birdie told me that Julie Stolnak would love to be on that committee.
Yes, I would like to be on that committee.
You okay? Interested?
Most passionate person should be on it. She's
So-
raising her. I'd be happy to do it, but but I would nominate Julie.
Absolutely. Second? I second. All in favor?
Aye.
That was
Julie is-
easy.
Okay.
Julie is on the committee.
Thank
Got
you.
that? Where we go? Now that we've done that already, Meredith, did you want to say anything about that committee?
I think everything you need to know was in the report, but
Right.
for the purposes of the recording, this is a capital improvement project that's been funded for this fiscal year, 18-19. Christopher Henson is going to be leading up that effort with this committee, and it's basically this committee is going to be helping to describe the vision and the scope for beautifying the entryway over at Imperial Avenue and Main Street. So we anticipate it having to do with signage and landscaping upgrades, and hopefully that would be an attractive entry into one of the main points of the city.
Recommendation: the committee goes straight to council then.
Yes, it will probably.
So if we have any ideas, we should pass it to Julie.
Sure, and Julie can update the commission as we move through the process. We can add that subcommittee as a update report in the agenda.
That'd be great.
Cool.
Thank you.
Sure.
I'll try to do this next one in order. Number 2, consideration and possible action to approve an El Segundo Recreation and Parks Scholarship Program, discounted enrollment into recreation programs for families needing financial assistance. The recommendation: review proposed options and provide direction or feedback, or 2, alternatively discuss and take other action related to this item. Meredith.
Sure. So if you recall, I think a couple months back, we had a preliminary presentation that Jeanette and Ericia presented. This item is before you, basically born out of conversation regarding aquatics fees. And we heard from the community that they were concerned about the affordability of participating in aquatics programs. And then at the aquatics subcommittee level, that committee felt that maybe the department should explore a financial assistance program or scholarship program that could be applied to the department as a whole, not just specifically aquatics programs. And so that's what we've been doing for the last few months. Ericia and Jeanette primarily have been doing the research on this program, and so this is one recommendation before you tonight on how we could administer that. One key point is that we felt that the name, instead of financial assistance, should be scholarship program, and that way it leads to probably better confidentiality and a little bit less stigma associated with getting financial assistance. Additionally, the city wouldn't be subsidizing their programs. The funding that would help subsidize their reduced fee for a program would be based on sponsors and donations. And so we would, as a department, solicit businesses as well as any participants of other programs. Just like you go to PetSmart and they say, do you want to donate $1 to, help help homeless pets? It might be something similar to that, a prompt when they're registering, that somebody could donate a small amount to the fund, but businesses could hopefully donate a larger amount to the fund. And if funds were available, then we would be able to award these scholarships. As far as eligibility goes, what we're proposing is to work off of the LA County grid that's in your packet here. This is something that's produced by LA County Department of Housing and Community Development. And this identifies income levels by household, by number of persons in a household, and then designates certain income thresholds as extremely low income, very low income, and low income. And so our recommendation tonight would be to to approve eligibility for families and households or individuals who fall in the low income or very low or extremely low areas. And we would do this by reviewing their tax documents. Seeing that is, our original thought was, could we attach this program to something that's already existing, like the Lifeline program or CARE program that utility companies have, or the school lunches? And based on the feedback here, there was some concern that eligibility process may not be totally verifiable, or it could be sort of an on your honor system. And so this way it at least puts the onus on the individual to provide some documentation. And then, of course, we would reserve the right to ask for more documentation if we felt we needed it. There would only be 1 or 2 individuals at the management or higher level to review the documents for confidentiality purposes, and then we would work out the system in our registration software, where they would get basically what we call a flag that would then, their account would allow them to receive this reduced rate. I think that about covers it. And we're happy to take questions and hear your feedback or concerns.
Okay. Anyone have anything? Go ahead.
So they're having to produce the documents twice a year, September and April.
We're proposing they would have to produce them once a year, but we would have 2 periods during the year where we would review the material. So they could do it in one or the other and then be eligible for the following year.
Okay. The flag that is going to be on their record is going to be seen by how many? Because the documents are going to be reviewed by 1 or 2 people within the city, but the flag's going to be seen by how many?
Well, any of our staff that would be able to register a participant would see the flag, and we talked about that, and that's partly why we want to name it a scholarship program, so that it's not, a glaring flag about financial assistance necessarily. Yeah, is your concern how many people would see the flag? Okay.
Being involved with CASE, I know how important that is to people, and how sensitive that is to the CASE families, and how that is viewed, that anonymity is viewed. And we hold that very close. And like, I have been a volunteer with CASE for 22 years. And now that my son, once he entered school, he's now a sophomore in school, but once he entered school, he and I stopped volunteering in the pantry because I didn't want him to see the children or the families that were coming to the pantry, because I didn't want him to slip sometime at school, or I didn't want those parents to see me at school and say, "Ooh, I wonder if she's maybe saying something." So we just handle the food drives and speaking and things like that, because I didn't want any, type of thing to get out there. And so it's very important that the anonymity be held very closely. And I know that you have teens and things working there in the checkout, and loose lips sink ships. And it's a very important thing that this financial assistance or this scholarship stay very close to just a very few people. So I think that this needs to be looked at very closely, in who's going to be seeing this?
Sure. I think one way around that would be basically to just limit who can actually register that family for programs, and we might have to designate one person to do that. So they wouldn't necessarily be able to do it online at their own home, from their own computer. They'd have to maybe speak directly with one person who could override the prices.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because like in Little League, I was a Little League secretary, and I was the only one that could handle scholarships.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. Ericia had mentioned too, we have an outreach office that handles a lot of sensitive information on the senior side, so maybe we can incorporate that sort of core group of 1 or 2 staff persons to help.
Because what you'll find is you'll find a lot of the families will just shy away and they just won't do it.
Sure. Okay. We can find a solution to that.
Okay.
Julie, is there anything else?
No, I think it's good. And I was looking when in the newspaper when it came out for the new rec park programs, I went right through the whole thing and I was like, where's the program? I thought it was going to be in this last thing, and I went through it all and I was like, there's no mention of it. I didn't know that we were still waiting for approval. I thought that it was already done. So I guess it will be in the next thing, in spring?
Whatever the policy ends up being after this discussion, we'll put together an application packet and the guidelines and have that available. I think some direction we're looking for tonight is the 50% rate, and how everybody feels about that discount, that rate, and then also, as far as a maximum or a cap that a family or individual would be eligible to receive over the course of a year. We would be open to feedback on that. Obviously, we don't know how many funds or how many dollars we have to give out, so we'll have to really kind of manage that as we go.
Okay, that's one of my, well, that's 2 of my questions. If there's no funds or a very low amount of funds, then the scholarship, it's not available.
Correct.
So there could be times when there just isn't a scholarship. So with that being said, do we want to put a max or a cap, not a max or a cap on what a family can take per year to leave some open for other families? And at a 50%, that's your recommendation right now, a 50% off in the fees. That's huge. And that'll help a lot of families right there. But that's only going to be available, from what I'm seeing in here, is if there are funds. And those funds are coming from outside sources, not from the city of El Segundo. So.
Well, and I think along with that, the outside sources aren't a consistent form of income, so that the consistency of the program may be very difficult, where a family might be able to get in one given year and then not be able to get in the following year because the funds aren't there. So that in itself could be, difficult, where we've started them and kind of given them open the door. So at some point we may want to try to address, is there going to be, how can we try to make it as stable as possible, would be my concern, I guess. And, I want to see it work. It's just, I would hate for it to come back and bite a family where, well, I would have never gone in if I didn't know,
right.
That it wasn't going to be available.
And we really have no idea how many people will be taking advantage of this
Correct.
program either. What would be the ideal situation is to get a large check that would help fund it for the first few years, and we could get a better idea.
I think I've been a part of a few of those campaigns, yeah.
And you're going to approach, like, say, the Rotary in Kiwanis and Women's Club and all of those different organizations, have
Right.
somebody from Rec Park go and speak
Sure.
at the different meetings?
Yeah. Yeah, and we'll have a pamphlet for that's similar to our event sponsorship pamphlet that would go to local businesses also.
When do you see that happening? After we approve this to get you started? When do you see going to your first meeting, getting the pamphlets out? I mean, is this something 3 months? Is this 6 months? What do you see?
I think our goal would be to open up the first round this coming April
3
for
months?
potential scholarships for the summer camps.
For summer?
Right.
So just so I understand, so April would be, if they're approved in April, that would be good for the next fiscal year, July 1 through June 30th of the next year. If you're approved in September, would that you would be approved just for the remainder of the fiscal year through June 30th? Or would it be the following fiscal year that how would that work?
Right. Our fiscal year would be October 1st through September. So it would be for the fiscal year.
So April wouldn't affect the summer, or you would, so if you get approved in April, are you good for then a year and a half?
No,
You know
it
what I-
would be through the fiscal year through September.
So just 6 months or
Yeah.
5 months or whatever. So if
Right.
April would just be for remainder, the September one would be for a full year.
Yeah, we really wanted the April one. We threw that in there after we had a one-time-a-year period. But the more we thought about, the most requests we get are usually for summer programs. We felt that if somebody comes through the door in April, May, and we're like, well, you missed it last September, then that would be,
And if they're anything like
Unsatisfactory.
me, you might need to wait till May, because if you're doing your taxes on the 14th or so, you're not getting your return for a little bit.
Good point. Yeah.
Maybe May would work a little
The
better.
really, we just wanted to set aside the time that people think about it, turn in their applications, and so that we're not fielding them one-offs, all throughout the year.
May I continue? This is not going to be a policy. This is not going to be a council-approved policy. So if we could come back 6 months or a year from now, something's not working, and tweak it or change it, or, right? I mean, so this is kind of a trial period we're entering. I mean, if right now we recommend 50%, and then it turns out that you only get to help 2 families and you turn down 10, we could adjust either the dollar amount or the amount. Yes or no? I mean, I don't know. I don't want to make a decision. I guess I'm reluctant to make a final decision here that we can't adjust
Sure.
moving forward.
Yeah, I think that even if it is a official policy, it still can be adjusted. But I do think that council is interested in knowing what comes of this conversation, just because it's usually based on establishing fees, and that's usually when they hear feedback from the residents. So I think they are expecting to see something back.
So given that some of the classes, depending on what class you could take a pretty expensive class, right? I mean, what's the most expensive class you can take?
Probably a
$500?
camp program, which
Right,
is a
like
couple $100.
$300 or $400. So if we're talking half of that, we need to at least cover. I would recommend maybe $100 limit the first year and see if we get. I mean, I'd hate to say $250 or something, and then, like I said, we only get $500 donations the first year, and we have to turn away a bunch of people. I'd rather it affect more families than really impact 2 families, I guess. So I would, I guess, at the outset, recommend a fairly low number, and then see how that goes. I don't know how you guys feel about dollar amount. And then the other piece was, is there a way to do it so, because this started, I believe, with drop-in fees for the plunge, but that won't be on the card or through the system. So is there a way to still allow those children who that started the conversation to get that 50% off right at the door?
Yeah, we haven't talked in detail about that. I think that, by offering the card, like an unlimited monthly card, then it would apply to that. So, for instance, if we have a summer swim membership for $50, half off would be $25 for the entire summer.
So maybe the answer is it doesn't affect that one-off drop-in. That
Right.
It doesn't apply. It has to be in the system,
Right.
in a program, a daily.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I also think that, with the daily drop-in, it would be very difficult to maintain, privacy that we're trying to maintain if we're trying to do a point-of-sale discount. Because anyone who's at the point of sale, which would be any counter, would be your daily hire and your confidentiality may be somewhat compromised. So if you're looking at, getting them a punch card, say a 10-use swim pass, it would then give them the ability to go, talk to the one person, whoever it may be, get the card, and then that way they're, they produce it like everyone else.
Right.
I also just personally believe that 50% is the right place to start, because these programs, 50% might only be $30, $40 for a program. So if you go less than 50, it doesn't impact enough. It's not worth bringing your tax form. So I think we need 50 just to incentivize people to take the time to bring in. So I like the 50% number personally. And that's all I had. Thank you.
And I'm good with the 50%. I do want to find some cap or some max somehow. And if it's $100 for the year per family, I'm not sure that that's enough. Because the family of 4 might be a little bit tough to get them into classes. So I would, if I'm throwing out figures here, 200 is where I'm at.
That allows 2 people to get that camp for 2 of their kids.
That's a little more realistic. With the cities that we did studies of before, they were capping at 300 per family. So 200 would help out more especially if you're a family of 4 or 5. And some of our programs are like 200, so you just eat up that 50% right away. So,
and I get that, but we also want to try to help more families than just one. We want to help as many as we can, and so we need to see what our funds are like, what the dollars coming in,
so
and
do you have any? The other cities say, yeah, that we started this program and the first year was tough. Do we have any indication? Do you have any idea what we'll get in the first year?
No, we don't. And unfortunately, I do feel positive with the groups that we are looking right now that they will assist with this, because it's for a good cause. And El Segundo, all of the businesses here have been very open with helping with our program. So I'm not really worried about that. I am worried about helping enough families, as you said, and being able to cap it at an amount that makes a significant difference with our programs. We also don't want to go into a situation where we're really not helping. We're just, especially if you have, well, I am a mother, and just my one is very expensive, so I can imagine 3 or 4. So we just want to keep that in mind. That would be my concern.
As Dave had said earlier, we want to help, again, as many as we can, but we need to start somewhere. And if we can adjust this down the road, start at 200, and then, hey, we do have more money. It looks like it's going to be nice. The fund is going to look good. Then we move it up. But if we start at 300, I think it's going to be tough. Let's take baby steps.
And then you see how many families are actually participating in it also.
Exactly.
We're kind of in the same predicament right now with CASE, that we're trying to help out with our families with school fees, with sports, and with extracurricular fees, and we're trying to help. We're trying to figure how many families we can help, and where we put a cap, and where we help with sports and with drama and with band, and and how many kids are in a family, and where our money is going to be best directed. So so we have to see how many families are actually going to apply for it.
In your internal discussions, did you have a recommendation on the amount?
We did start at 300 and felt and kind of struggled with the same thing, and making sure that we helped enough families. Another conversation that we've had is, maybe we do it by individual, because a household of 1 senior citizen and a household of 2 parents and 3 children getting the same amount, there's some disparity there, especially because a lot of the senior programs are also much lower fees, so they can kind of get 8 programs versus, you know, a family getting 1 or 2. So, you know, we had thought maybe in the application they'd have to list, you know, the members of the household, and we could award based on, you know, $100 per individual or whatever that might.
Would that be too complicated to recommend $100 per individual and $200 per family, or $300 per family?
It puts somebody with gets somebody a lot of power. And it would be tough for me to accept that recommendation.
Which one? The individual versus family?
Right, just it's per family, and let's see where it goes. I think we need to start somewhere.
Yeah, and if that becomes a problem, maybe
Then-
we adjust the rule then.
When this goes to council, there has to be some place where we can review this and say, hey, these figures aren't working. These amounts, we need to raise it, we need to lower it, adjust it somehow.
I would support 200. I just threw out 100 because,
Yeah.
I mean, it's in the same
you
range.
started somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Are we also doing something age-wise? Are we doing it for children and for seniors, or are we doing it for mom and dad also? You know,
Mom and dad also.
We left it open to all ages. We know that seniors and youth usually get the attention as far as assistance, but as rec professionals, we also value recreation and fitness and those types of programs for adults as well. But that's open for discussion.
Our goal is to get people to recreate, all people who wouldn't otherwise, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I would think it should be everybody.
These families that need the assistance are going to jump through hoops to get this. They're going to do whatever they need, and the other ones are not. So it's a family that we need to help, not just one. So that's my opinion.
Okay, well, I'll go ahead and we can continue the discussion, but I'll recommend that we ask staff to implement a $200 per family maximum for the first year, and that we go with the 50%. And I think that's it. That's my recommendation.
Is there a second? Or any more?
More discussion.
I'll second it.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 4-0.
Thank you.
Does that help?
Yeah, very much. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, on to number 3. Consideration and possible action related to defining the priority of amenities and improvements to develop the scope of Richmond Street Field Capital Improvement Project. Recommendations to review proposed options and provide direction or feedback, or 2, alternatively discuss and take other action. Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Almost everyone.
Sure.
Meredith,
Thank you.
please.
Yeah,
Thanks.
so, well, some information has been provided to you in your report here, but I wanted to provide to you an update on the progress. As you know, Richmond Street Field was one of the projects that was prioritized as an important project to move forward with. This fiscal year, many of the funded projects citywide are actually within the Recreation and Parks Department, largely in part because Public Works is conducting the overall facilities condition assessment, and a lot of other improvements were sort of left out of the prioritization for this year, which we took advantage of. So this is one that we're really excited about. $350,000 was allocated to this project from the city's general fund. We're working very closely with El Segundo Unified. Richmond Street Field is El Segundo Unified School District property. Through the joint use agreement, we operate and maintain and schedule the field outside of school hours. And this all sort of came about because, number one, Richmond is a little bit of a less desirable field, mainly because there's a severe lack of parking, and also there are no restroom facilities. And in discussions with El Segundo Little League over the years, As you know, they were displaced from the Imperial School site when the school district sold that site, and D.R. Horton is now developing their residential development there. Through that project, D.R. Horton provided El Segundo Little League a donation of $100,000 to help them find a new home for the Challenger League. So I do have the president of El Segundo Little League here tonight, Ted, and we've been discussing this project. Prior to Ted, was working with Lance on defining sort of what their priorities would be in making improvements, and would Richmond be a viable option for a new home for the Challenger field. And the main priority in doing that is accessibility, and making sure that the kids and their parents have proper accessibility and ADA pathways to and from the field. Now, in the meantime, El Segundo Unified started a construction project of their own where they demolished the old TLC building on the corner of Virginia and Palm, and are constructing a new portable building for that program, a restroom, and a parking lot. That's still to be determined, but somewhere in the range of 30 to 40 spaces. And so there's been some discussion about how can the city share in those amenities. And the conversation continued with, was there a way to potentially build a restroom where the TLC program would access it from one side and any general users of the field would access it from another. Kind of went through a couple design iterations and felt that it was more appropriate to do separate restroom buildings just because of access control. But long story short, we're working with El Segundo Unified on this project. It's become sort of bigger than just the field. It's basically that whole entire area that includes from the playground over to Virginia and the baseball field. And here tonight to just run you through the priorities that we're hoping get scoped into the project, and wanted to get your feedback. First and foremost is the accessible pathways. Like I mentioned, the whole goal of the project, or the main goal of this project, was to make improvements to the field that not only would help El Segundo Little League, but also other groups. El Segundo Little League, the reason why they are largely involved is they're willing to help fund the project with that $100,000 donation. So essentially, the budget for the field would go from $350,000 to $450,000. And so we're working closely with them to make sure that we can prioritize what's important. The second priority would be the restrooms, and also at one time we had scoped out a separate storage building, something like 10 feet by 12 feet. And when the school district came back with some cost estimates, that ended up being almost a $100,000 ticket. So circled back with Ted, and we really sort of worked out, like, how much space do you really need? What are you really going to use the storage for? This would be for El Segundo Little League. And so we found an option with one of the restroom buildings that the school district is proposing that has a janitor closet, and they've indicated that that's large enough for their needs. So we would be able to select this restroom building that has 2 stalls, and then this closet or storage area that would be. So we've eliminated that $100,000 item. And then the third one is turf repair. And this is really an unknown as far as what the cost in actuality would be. The school district has it down for $180,000, but of course that depends on exactly how we do that. We hear a lot about Richmond Field and the condition of it, largely because AYSO uses it for soccer as well, but the outfield and recess uses it, the school uses it. There are some definite improvements to be made there, and turf improvement would be one of those. Leveling it, checking drainage, and then probably renovating the irrigation as well. From there, we go to making the field playable for Little League. We'd have to modify, not modify, but basically add base anchors and make sure we had the proper mounds in place. We have a lot of fields out there that do work for both baseball and softball, so we would want to make sure that that could happen. And then fencing for dugouts, backstops, and new spectator bleachers. It's a lot. And that's why we wanted to have this conversation, because that totals more than $450,000. But like I said, the city and the school district, they have a committee that's made up of 2 council members and 2 board members, the school superintendent and the city manager, and they've been talking about this project and the impacts of the parking lot and the restroom, and they're expecting a funding request to come forward to make sure that we get everything that we want. So, sort of setting the dollar amounts aside, we wanted to hear your thoughts on the prioritization here, and if you'd like to ask Ted his priorities as far as Little League goes, he's here to do that too.
I'm sorry, who did you say is anticipating an ask?
The
for
city
money?
council.
Council is expecting an ask from the district.
Well, from staff, really, as far as if we want all of these things, then it would cost
An
X, and
additional
we need.
on top of the 350.
Right.
They're anticipating that. So if this 350 were not designated, they would do their project on that corner and everything else would stay as is.
Right.
So before I get into the actual what you're asking, the district is going to greatly benefit from this new field as well.
Mm-hmm.
The district is going to benefit from the fact that this field is ADA accessible as well. They have students in wheelchairs as well. How much discussion has there been about their contributing to the field and not it being 100% the city?
Right. So we've done some calculations on cost sharing based on usage, and generally speaking, you could say that the city sort of has control or uses the field 70% of the time, and the district uses it 30% of the time. So that's roughly sort of how they're looking at possibly doing a cost sharing overall.
So in that scenario, let's say the 635 is perfectly accurate. We could take 30% of that and say that's what they're willing to contribute potentially.
Possibly,
So we go
yes.
70% of 635, and we might be closer to 450.
Right,
Right?
but this
We're
does not
almost there.
include the parking lot piece.
So the expectation is that
which the
the city is gonna contribute to the parking lot as well.
Right,
So maybe that's
exactly.
a swap between the 30% and the parking lot.
And those are the ongoing discussions.
My other couple thoughts, one is that I guess you'd have to look at the calendar, but I feel like softball uses it way more than Little League, right? Like,
Girls softball?
right,
Mm-hmm.
girls softball. So that means that there can't be a mound, right? So it has to be flat for them.
Right.
So the challengers, you don't need a mound. I guess Little League isn't expecting to use this as a playing field because of the mound issue. You never could. You could only use it as a practice field.
They will probably use a portable mound if they wanted to play
one of those
some
cool
of the
ones, yeah.
younger levels at this field. I don't know if Challenger uses the mound, but if the younger levels did, then that's what they would use. And I think they currently use that at the school.
Okay.
Okay, let's get into the actual question now. Sorry, my bad.
No, you don't have to be sorry. Okay, I don't know anything. I'm gonna play. I'm gonna play crazy right now. What is it doing with the field that's there now? You're redoing the whole field that's there now, correct? Or am I wrong?
To be determined.
Okay.
The conversation is to redo the whole field. If you're putting turf in, you're basically redoing the whole field,
field.
correct?
Well, the turf is the outfield. There's no turf in the infield.
Correct. It's skinned infield.
Right. And so, ideally we would redo the whole field, including
Okay.
the fencing.
And this field, the skinned part of it now, is used by softball,
Mhm.
girls softball, high school girls softball,
Mhm.
and Little League is using it too. and then Challenger Field also.
Mm-hmm.
Is there enough time available to do all that? Because I know it's really, when we go to these youth sports council meetings,
Mm-hmm.
I'm hearing there's not enough time. So if we're not building 2 fields there, we're not building enough.
Mm-hmm.
There might be enough space to have another one for like, maybe like U6 or something going the other way, right? It looked
Like
like there
catty
might be
corner?
enough to do
Well,
a second small one.
yeah, and
outfield, I don't
something to
know.
be aware of is that with the whole site plan is not on here, but yes it is. So where the parking lot is going in the TLC building, we're actually losing outfield in that section, so it will be impacting how many soccer fields can be painted out there.
Yeah, but still maybe east-west? No?
I'm talking baseball fields.
Yeah, yeah. We know that Little League would obviously like to use it a little bit more. Their Challenger League is on Sundays for 2 to 3 hours, and we're not really concerned about finding that time. I think what the next step would be is to get Little League and girls softball in the room together and talk about how to share some space during the week. And what Little League doesn't currently have at the school sites is lights.
But you're also going to have, like I said, the school district. So that 30%, because school district, don't know which girls, which ages, if it's the freshman team or the JV team uses that field.
I think it's Frostoff.
So that's taking away, that there's time there also. So I know the Sunday that the Challenger part should be fine.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm talking about Little League wants more, and I want them to have it, but we need another field.
Where?
That's why you get paid the big bucks.
I don't think it fits though, in this, right? I mean,
There's not enough room on this. We know that.
Can we still keep the backstops in the southeast and northeast corners so that, because I do see softball and baseball teams using those. I know it's all grass, but at least they take BP and do other stuff. Will we be able to keep backstops there so there's 3 practice areas anyway for baseball and softball?
Yeah, I don't see why not. Yeah.
And you said that this was including fencing because the school has already put new fencing up.
Fencing for the backstop and the dugouts.
Okay.
Yeah. Which again, you know, if the budget doesn't allow, we could use the existing fencing, but it's not in great shape. But if you're asking if you'd like Ted to address the usage requests, we can.
Well, we're always we're always addressing the usage, always, and have for years. So, I'd love to make this work. I've been doing this for a lot of years. I just don't see. I don't see the numbers working.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
As
part of the
far as
problem is
how-
the school's
I
taking
want to make this
square footage away from us, right? So we have no choice. So
Yeah,
I mean,
we have.
we're getting shrunk. I mean, the space that we have available to us is shrinking.
Yes.
Period, regardless of what we recommend. So is there enough space here for a second infield, like in the opposite corner? I don't think there is, because then you have dirt on your soccer field, right? So I think the best we can do is to try to mimic what we have there right now, which is keeping those 2 backstops available, so at least we don't reduce the practice space. I'm with you. I just don't see where it's going to go. I mean,
And
a real one.
And your suggestion of getting Little League and softball in the same room and the school district is a necessity.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know that that's a big piece that Little League wants to feel comfortable with before
I
making
get
the
it.
investment.
Is it all right with you if I have Ted come up?
Yeah, sure. They want to wait. Little League wants to know what before they make the investment.
what type of usage would change. Yeah.
Sure.
Ted, do you mind coming up? And go ahead and just, for the record, tell everybody who you are.
Sure. My name's Ted Lappy. That's Lappe, and I am the El Segundo Little League president for this year.
And thank you.
Thank you. So addressing the usage and what a concern is on our part would obviously be the $100,000 that we have that we received from D.R. Horton. To contribute to the project, we would obviously want more time on the field. And currently, we have 0 time on that field. So we do not do anything over there. We do not practice. We do not play games. We handle everything over at Center Street or at Brett. So going forward, we would want to use it for more than just a challenger game on Sunday for 2 or 3 hours. We would want to get a bit more out of it. We know currently, as you already discussed, that girls softball as well as the high school uses the field as well. We're competing for the same resources, and our involvement would only complicate that as well. So the idea of having a second field would be fabulous. Would love that. And if we can work something out, we will. But I must say that it is, for our financial commitment of $100,000, we're gonna want to engage in that conversation. And I know it's not going to be an easy conversation, but we're going to want a significant part of that time for our kids to practice and play on.
Are you prepared to tell me what significant is, or do you want to wait?
Perhaps wait. I think that's more of a conversation better had with all parties in the room. So, I mean, I could tell you, but it would be very selfish right now. But I mean, because again, I know what they use. I know what we need, what would alleviate our the situations that we run into as far as time and space over at Center Street. But again, $100,000 is a bit of a commitment, and we recently spent $15,000 to redo Center Street Field, the infield over there. So, when I hear $180K to do the infield, details matter in that case. So, $100,000 should build you a really nice field. So when I hear 180, I'm kind of interested in what that entails.
You gotta keep in mind it's public works. It's
Yes.
prevailing wage.
Yes.
It's it's DSA. So all the so you there you can add. It's substantial. The difference between doing it on your own off the side versus going.
Right. We're we're subject to, because we have to go through the school district as well before we can do anything over on Center Street. We have to run through the district. We have prevailing wages that we have to apply to any contract. We have to get several bids on the contract. So there are conditions, obviously, that we have to meet through the school district. We meet those. We got it approved. In fact, our field is done now. I understand 100% what you're saying, though. So thank you.
The $100,000 was specifically designated to the challengers, though, right? So there is a little bit of, I played baseball in El Segundo. My son currently. I don't want this to come across as I'm not supporting Little League, but that 100 was really for the challengers primarily. So I'm having a little bit of difficulty. I guess part of the problem is if we get, in order to donate this 100,000, we need more playing time. Concerns me a little bit, because then we're potentially in a situation where, well, what if softball says, well, we'll put in 75 and then we get to keep all our time. So we have to be kind of careful, I think, with that piece. Mm-hmm. It concerns me a little bit. I don't know if it does you, Meredith.
I think it's a good point, definitely.
And I'm just wrapping my head around it.
Yeah, if there's language around specifically for the usage of that money going towards challengers specifically, I haven't seen that. I know in our paperwork it says for the rebuilding or the building of a new field, or the maintenance of current fields.
That's true, because it was single A was over there too.
Yeah, so Rookie was over there. So our T-ball teams were over there. Our challenger teams were using that, and we're now renting out space at the high school to help alleviate what it is we lost over at the former middle school on Imperial.
That's right. Good point. I forgot
And
there was
Ted
more
was
than just.
making a point too, when we were talking about certain, like the majors wouldn't be able to use this field because they require fencing, which obviously wouldn't be an option here on a school field. So you're primarily looking at the younger.
That's right. So
groups.
Brett Field right now is ideal for our majors division. It's our, and even this year our majors will likely only have 4 teams in our majors division, which is not enough to say, you know, we need more field space. It's our lower level divisions that end up being our largest, and that's where we need as much help as we can get as far as alleviating our schedule, because we're there on Center Street 7 days a week. On Sunday, Saturday and Sunday, we're there from 8 in the morning all the way till 5 in the afternoon. So it's packed, 7 days a week, all day on the weekend, and it's a challenge for our scheduling. It's a challenge for our teams, and it can be difficult in those lower divisions where from year to year we may have another 10 or 12 kids in those lower divisions, which adds another team, which adds another time slot. So it would be a huge help for us, obviously, to alleviate that. But again, you know, it's very difficult, I know, when we're trying to impede on current programs that are already there. So we're all for, again, having that conversation with all of us in the room. I think that would go much smoother than us telling you what we need and being selfish about it without understanding what other people's needs are as well.
Anybody have any other questions for Ted?
Ted, will Challengers not have the use of the Raytheon Field anymore after this season?
That's likely the case. I think this will be the last year that we're able to use that, and then we're really stuck as far as if this doesn't work out over at Richmond for us. I'm not quite sure at this point where to go. I mean, we haven't thought that far ahead. Obviously, we could figure something out. But if Richmond Field space is available to us and we can work something out, we'd love to be a part of that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I think we need to do some more discussion on this one. I think, I do. I don't know about everyone else. I want to see if it's feasible for Little League to get time at that field, or time that they are requiring. I just heard 3 hours on Sunday isn't enough, and I get it. I thought, and I was wrong here, that Little League was using Richmond at some point. I knew it wasn't much, if it was anything, and it was 0. And that field is busy all the time.
I want to say I thought that girls softball also conceded a little bit of time to Little League this last season, but I could be wrong. We can take a look
I'm
at
not
that.
sure of that, so
Yeah.
that's why I would love to be in the room when this is being discussed with Little League, girls softball. So,
Well, as our youth sports council representative, we can definitely include you.
I think you are.
I think you both are.
But I can sit in.
Sure.
Doesn't it seem to you, if you look at the layout of the field, it seems to me like the field has been moved out. If you look at it, that you have larger alleyways.
I see what you're talking about.
It seems like it could be moved back this way more.
I
The
don't
discussion
know if
does
it's
not
possible.
include moving the field, so
Yeah.
it could just be the way that we're reading the rendering here. But
Yeah.
if you see where it says dugout,
Mhm.
that's the fence line coming straight out of there
It-
to the announcer's booth in
it
the back.
looks
So
good to
that's
me,
the
this-
fence line.
This
I think
dimension.
what you're looking at, maybe that infield square kind of looks a good deal off of the fencing. May not be completely
I
accurate
think one
and
of
to
the other
scale.
things you have to look at is it's not a complete level field. It does have an offset that drops down from street level into the dugout. So it's not 100% level. It does do a
No,
little
it
drop,
has a
I
very
think.
big
You know,
difference.
Well,
Big-
I
big
know
drop.
that first.
Yeah, I mean,
that
there's a
first
drop, and that's
section.
why we have to get access ways and everything. So I think that's what you might be seeing, is it doesn't look like that because it doesn't seem like much, but that's because it is sloped to a certain extent.
I know we've given you a lot of feedback.
No, it's good
But-
feedback, and I just wanted to make sure that you are all up to speed on the conversations that are happening. And then the
And-
next conversation would be, let's talk about that schedule.
And I totally understand what Ted's saying, that before they're gonna put that, or add that kind of money to that field, we gotta make sure that they're getting some use out of that field.
Right.
And as president of El Segundo Babe Ruth, I'll tell you, I'd be doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'd like to see more information before we do anything with this.
Sure, we can bring it back.
So is there agreement up here, or do you guys have?
A couple
please,
more comments? Yeah, go ahead.
Please.
The one point that I want to make, and you've heard it before, is that as we go through, I kind of highlighted real quick all the areas that are under consideration for repair or renovation. With the only one that's not really being talked about is right here. It is the plunge. There are certain things that I think we need to look at with the renovation of the plunge, including just getting chemicals from the street to the actual machine areas, which would, a walkway across there. I would certainly hope that as we go through, we consider the renovation of that plunge so that we're not sitting there and designing something for this field that doesn't include what we ultimately need to do in that renovation. I realize that our plans are not that far along. I know that we do have some documents on renovating it from before, the past, but there are certain things that are going to come in conjunction with everything else that we're doing in this property, and we should at least talk about what needs to be done in the future for this to make it better for not only the 90% we're talking about, but the 10%, the large financial 10% we're not talking about. I'd like to see that we have an idea of exactly what we need to do so that we do it, anything that's adjacent to the plunge doesn't change what we have to do for the plunge later on. So.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I
Please.
guess of the if budget allows items, everyone likes a scoreboard. It's really cool to have, but it's an easy one to eliminate, I would think. Same with announcer's booth. I mean, it's in that space for a reason, and I agree with it. I think of all the things there, the one that probably shouldn't be considered is the PA system, just because then it creates a new problem for everybody. So you might want to just cross that one off from the get-go.
Absolutely.
And what was the other thing I was going to say? Oh, the one piece that you mentioned it verbally, but it's not on here, is the drainage. We've all experienced that field for 50 years, and I think that may end up being the most expensive piece of this whole project. I mean, it could be, you've seen drainage that goes under fields. It's not just leveling it off and getting it. Sometimes it requires massive work underground. Right, when it's all going down anyway. So how do you get it? Yeah.
That allows it to funnel off to a
So
gutter.
that concerns me
Yeah.
greatly.
And that's exactly, so the turf repair for 180,000, I need to get a better idea of where that number came from and if that was included in that or if that would be a separate item.
Right, yeah, if it's included, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
Maybe it is. It's a pretty high number, because if you turf that whole thing, it wouldn't be close to that. Yeah, maybe that includes it. Let's hope. That's all for me.
Do we want to send it back for more information?
I don't know. I think.
Well, you wanted options or feedback. Do you want anything else from us?
No.
Okay.
I think that's good feedback, and we'll continue to keep you updated, and next step would be to meet with the groups.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Ted, good luck. If we can do this and make it work for all the user groups, I'm in favor. But I want it to work for all the user groups.
Right.
330 feet and put a
All the ones that are requesting this field. I should have changed that. Okay, thank you. Reports of subcommittees. Aquatic Subcommittee.
I believe we're having what we're going to call a grand opening on the 5th. And that's why we see everything. And that was the focus of our conversation and a number of issues that surround the opening.
Thank you for that. Golf Course Subcommittee. Meredith, can you help us out on that?
Sure.
Alex is not here.
Sure. We had a meeting in December at the Golf Course Subcommittee. It was a good meeting, really nothing earth-shattering, the typical review of the financials, the typical discussion about the future of the lakes and the timeline related to potentially Topgolf taking over. And the concern, that we continue to hear is just this sort of pending uncertainty about scheduling and, booking events, and do we start planning for summer, or are we going to close, and things like that. So I think there's an update here about Topgolf in my report, but it's still ongoing discussion. There's no deal that has been inked at this time.
Is there an approximate date when construction might start, or is that still very much up in the air?
Still up in the air.
Thank you.
Thank you. Youth Sports Council, nothing on that. Next meeting, January, I believe. So we'll get back to you on that one. Department staff reports. Erisea.
Good evening, Commissioners. Hopefully you came out to our holiday tree lighting and you enjoyed the festivities that day. Unfortunately, I don't have stats for you as far as how many gifts we gave out. So in January meeting, I will make sure to present those to you. How many gifts, how many people saw Santa. It was a really fun night. And Meredith, thank you, because you were definitely a key player in making sure it was on again. It was off on. So that was a fun day. Don't forget about the holiday dinner on December 25th, of course, on Christmas Day over at the Jocelyn Senior Center. It starts at 12. We've had a lot of people participate, a lot of volunteers come and help out with this dinner, so it's sure to be a great one. So if we could see some of your faces, that would be great, just to pop in. I understand it's a busy day, but we would like to see you. And that's all I have.
Any questions? Seeing none, we'll move to Christopher Henson.
Good evening. You have my report, and I'll take any questions. Just a couple additions. We have West Coast Arborists back in town now doing some trimming and removals and so forth, different locations. And I'd just like to add that I've completed 1 year here, and I'm looking forward to this next year. We have many exciting projects going on with the parks and so forth, and I'm very excited about the Gateway Committee as well. And happy holidays.
Great. Thank you. Okay. And moving on to Dan O'Toole, his last report. I'm going to let you keep us happy here.
Good evening, Commissioners. You have my report in front of you. The one point out of the report I'd like to pull out is that right now, for subscribers on El Segundo TV, that's El Segundo TV, one word, on YouTube, we have 1,713 subscribers. To put that into kind of a idea of numbers, for the city, we have 16,600 residents, and so we're hitting about 10% if all these subscribers are that. When you add into the thing below, you'll notice that the shares. People are sharing our stuff, so you start adding that in the people they're sharing with, and then of course if they share it with somebody else, just one other person, you're looking at another 300, some views of almost every program. What happens is El Segundo TV, all you do is click on it and subscribe, and what it'll do is it'll alert you every time we put up a new video. So seeing something local and everything on the spread of things, and with smart TVs and everything, basically we're coming to almost everybody's house the way every broadcast station is. I want to wish everybody a happy holidays, and I'll take any questions.
Well, I want to thank you for your years here. And gonna miss you. Okay. I thought he was going to say something, but I saw something that he's retiring.
You're not old enough to retire.
I was going to leave that for the director's report, but
But I'm going to, but we'll wait. But I wanted to say thank you.
okay, thank you very much. It's been great. I mean, the thing I'll miss the most is the support and everything of
Yep.
all the directors and commissions and you guys and Parks and Rec, and of course all the community. I mean, the community's always been behind us, and that's why I'm glad to see our subscribers expanding, because getting the word about just programs, things that are going on, park projects and everything is kind of exciting.
Okay. Department Director Report. Meredith.
Yes, so I'm happy to answer any questions on the updates in my report, but the big news is, because we didn't meet in November, Dan has announced his retirement, and today we held a citywide gathering to send him off with all the well wishes. But Dan has been with the city for over 22 years and has really shaped what community cable, although we try to avoid that name these days, what the El Segundo TV or Media Services Division is, and it's evolved a lot over the last 22 years, of course, but as Dan became manager, he's really helped shape what that division is in the city and what it does for the city. So we will definitely miss Dan. He is a true quarterback in the sense of delegating and sort of handling a lot of moving parts to what they do, and working with creative folks and producing creative programming, and being you know, a division of only 3 full-time staff members and multiple part-time staff members. It's a lot to juggle, and Dan does it really seamlessly and really without noticing any sort of snafus or anything. So really great guy, really fun guy to work with, really upstanding and professional person, and we'll miss him very, very much. And we showed a little video, one of the very few, I think maybe the only videos I've seen where Dan's actually on camera. And we'd like to share it with you today. It dates back to 1998. And you might recognize some folks in the video also.
What we do is I like to put a little theme on some of the videos from our vault, as I put our high-tech audio system here to work. And the theme for this one will be respect that I have with fellow employees and people that are on camera.
Listen to me. No, every time I come in here to do my waiter bit, Monty's always taking my scene. That's what I worked on, that scene. What? He's on his way over here right now? Yeah, I'll try to get out. Oh, too late. I talk to you really important. I'm kind of busy right now. Pete, you know, I've got a lot of papers shuffled around the table, and you know, I got magazine shows and.
Anyway, got a big problem with couch potatoes. I've kind of brought this up before. I think you're the man to handle it. You're directing.
Hey, yeah, glad to see you're on time. You know, I do my best. What is going on with couch potatoes? I'm hearing rumors that Pete is griping about me, and you know what? I've about had it with Pete. Thank God this is the last episode of the year. You know, I don't know who Pete thinks he is. This is it for Pete Whalen. Do you hear me? This is it. You got it. Okay, thank you. Whatever you say, Jeff. You're the boss. What you
You know,
that was great. Well, guys, it was a great year.
It was. It was a good year.
Good season.
It was fun.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. I really did.
Yeah. You guys did a great job.
Yeah. Well, you know what I thought, Jeff, and maybe Pete, maybe you agree also, is the segment that you introduced with the serving, you know, being the servant, coming in there and during the studio. I thought that really was a fresh something really fresh and invigorating for the show. And anytime you need me, my time is amply free. If you ever need me to fill, I'd be more than glad to do that, because you've got an number one.
Thanks, Monty. You know, you were a great help this year.
Hey, I appreciate it.
You really helped me out.
Well,
I had a great time.
Yeah, I enjoy working with all
You
you
guys worked well together.
That was a good segment.
Yeah.
Well, I think everybody worked together well. Didn't seem to be any problems with any personality conflicts, which is nice. Jeff, I mean, everybody knows about the best director around, the stuff he's done for the show with Football Focus.
And with your knowledge too, you know, that was it.
I tell you,
know,
this couldn't happen without
you know.
Pete. I mean,
the thing is, he doesn't even have to hardly read papers. He just knows what's coming up. It seems like every week.
I mean, Pete,
you're
really,
a genius, Pete.
You're the football guy.
Well, it
couldn't happen without you.
I appreciate that.
Bow down.
I think it's a compliment to everybody working together. Everybody kind of filled in.
Yeah. The one thing next year, and I promise you now, I'll work on is. I think if there was a weak link, it was probably Dan.
Yeah. Well, I didn't want to say it. He won't be hearing any of this. Will he?
No, he's in the other room.
Okay. The thing is with Dan, I mean, you can't help but like the guy. Number one.
Yeah.
He's a little intimidating because he looks like a linebacker. But a lot of times when I go in there and he's the director, but you can over direct. I think.
Yeah.
I mean, like. It used to be I had free reign. My last show, I could go out on the field, and Andy and I could just do what we wanted to do.
Yeah, I've got my own problems with
that.
that.
Yeah, but it seemed like every 5 minutes, before you do anything, check with me. And that's the only complaint I have.
Yeah. Well, it's something that I'll work on next year, and, we'll find somebody who can cut the mustard next year.
The other thing, too, is, he kind of inserts himself into the show. I mean, he was a guest on the show.
I don't know what that guy's problem is.
He was a guest on the show.
Well, he's one of the new guys. You got to understand. He's not really a Gundawite.
Yeah, he doesn't live in town.
What is this South Orange County area? I think their attitude, their outlook on PR is a little different.
He's an egomaniac. I mean, really, let's face it.
Yeah. He doesn't know anything about football and he becomes a guest on the show, and I don't know. He said Jeff scheduled him, then I asked Jeff after the fact, and Jeff said no, he didn't schedule him.
I heard he grew up in Hemet. Who grows up there?
Yeah. Doesn't that give you an idea the dry attitude, the dry sense of humor he has?
I heard he had a nice trailer.
You're sure he's not going to hear this now? I mean, I'd be embarrassed. I'd be embarrassed.
Well, you know what? I think we all agree. Everything worked out great.
Yeah.
Phased Dan out somehow.
Sure.
We got a good show going.
All right.
Sounds great. Put our hands together.
All right.
Great year. 1, 2, 3.
You cannot control the press.
Well, Dan never lost his sense of humor, so if only in 22 years we're all still laughing like Dan, I think we'll be happy.
It is all about respect, though.
Well, Pete finally got it done. Took him a little while, but I'm out.
Okay. Commissioner comments. Commissioner Stolnick.
I wanted to congratulate Dan on his retirement from the city, and I hope the city's able to find an equal match to you. So, good luck to the city. Also, over the last few weeks, I attended the parks workshop that they had on one of the workshops on the Washington and Acacia Park workshop, and it was rather interesting. It was the second one when residents came, and the landscape architects were there gathering ideas for Acacia and Washington Park, and it was rather interesting to hear some of the comments that residents were making on what it was they wanted to see for Acacia Park, and it was mainly getting feedback. There wasn't a lot of feedback on Washington. It was mainly on Acacia, and so it was interesting to hear what the people were having to say. And then the architects were taking that in, and they're going to come back with 3 different plans to be looked at. So I don't know, there were maybe 10, 12 people there. There were some kids there that were giving their input as well. And so it'll be interesting to see what it is the architects come up with. So I just wanted to say that I had attended that, and so we'll see what it is they come up with.
It sounds like you were surprised by the recommendations of the people who were there. Were there anything, can you share some of the?
People did not seem to be too keen on the little putting greens.
Really?
Yep.
It's temporary. It's temporary. Okay,
they
sorry.
didn't like that. They thought there was
temporary.
going to be, you know, golf balls flying through their windows, and they weren't too keen on that. I think they almost thought that it was like going to be like a driving range out there, instead of, you know, just people out there putting the balls. People were like looking for shade and all of that, and instead of thinking, okay, this is already like a cold park, you know, they didn't really realize that park is really a cold park to begin with because of the fog. So you don't really need a whole lot of shade in that area. You know, the kids are kind of wanting more climbing, kind of some rolling hills. I think that, you know, we're going to have pushback on people are wanting the pool, even though it's not like used a whole lot. But you know, you've got a lot of in that area, and I get it. You know, you have the memories of the pool, even though those people may not be using the pool themselves. They've got those memories of growing up there. It's their neighborhood park.
It's my neighborhood park.
You know, so we'll see. We did have one resident there that her son has some disability issues, so she was wanting to make sure that it's going to be ADA compliant and that her son would be able to access the park. So there was just a variety of things, but the architects were noting everybody's suggestions.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Lubes.
I think it's interesting if you're willing to show up to a meeting, how much influence you can actually have. You got 12 or 14 people show up, and 3 renditions are going to come out of that one conversation. It's kind of a testament to get involved, and you can get what you want. It's interesting. Thank you, Dan. Thank you for your service to the city. Thank you also for your friendship. I think over the last 22 years, you and I have had a couple thousand interactions, and I can honestly say that I don't think one of those interactions has ever been negative. Like when I think of you, every single one, it's whether it had to do with the cable, or whether it had to do with the space at the high school, or whether it had to do with you know, you and I talking about something that didn't have anything to do with anything. You have always struck me as a positive, yes, I can get it done, and the type of person who I wanted to be friends with. So thank you. Also, I think that cities benefit from people who commit to them. So, you know, while there's something to be said about how, you know, if everybody stays forever, then it kind of creates, you know, you need to have some turnover here and there, but in key positions like yours, in order to grow that program as it has over the 20 years, it takes stability, and you provided that stability, and you cared about it, and you pushed all the directors in the right way to baby step your way into a great program. And I watched that develop over that time, and so thank you for being a great leader.
Thank you. And I'm also going to suggest my parting move will be to resurrect the cable guys. Because now you're working out of town, there's no conflict.
Yeah, that too, exactly. We were together right from the start.
Okay, Vice Chairperson Davis.
Dan, thank you so much. I've been here for 3 years. I really didn't see much until I joined the commission. It's pretty amazing what you've been able to do and create. And for me to jump in and see it, you know, for the last 3 years has been great, and you've done a fantastic job. What Dave says about you always being positive, always being up is absolutely true, and really do appreciate everything you've done. You know, you can definitely see your work and your, you know, body of work for your career and what it's created. And that's something you can look back and always say that you've done something really, really good. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, just a couple of things. I've already said it. Thanks, Dan. I really hope that we can do something with Richmond Field. I think we just have to, we're going to have to take baby steps and do it right, as we should do everything. And with that, Merry Christmas to everyone, and everyone have a Happy New Year. And we'll go back to public communications. Seeing none, we'll close public communications. And we'll adjourn to the next regular meeting on Wednesday, January 16th, 2019 at 6 p.m. Thank you, everyone.